Hey guys, FilmCrazyAdam here. To those of you that have just stumbled across this channel, I appreciate you rolling the dice and I hope you enjoy what you see. To those of you that continue to roll the dice for some reason, I really appreciate you coming back. I hope I can continue to entertain you, and I hope you continue to enjoy what you see. Anyway, pleasantries out of the way, let's get to the video that you really came to see. Some of you might be asking, where is this seemingly random video coming from? I've been meaning to do a non-review video for a while now. This was on my list of things to do. And this kind of started after I posted the link to my She-Hulk episode 1 review on a text thread I have with my friends back in Jersey. And after I did this, a very heated discussion where a number of us didn't really see eye to eye broke out on this thread. And there will be no names to be had here as to protect people's feelings. But after posting the link, one person agreed with my review, another person didn't, and then a third person hadn't even seen it and talked about the new season of The Orville, which is, I still need to watch that. The person who liked She-Hulk, yes, one of the people liked She-Hulk. The person who liked She-Hulk disagreed with my stance that She-Hulk is super woke and ultra misandry. Misandry, by the way, is your word of the day.
Right now, it's time for Corbin to say the word of the day.
What is misandry? Quite simply, misandry is the exact opposite of misogyny. Misogyny is the hatred of women. Misandry is the hatred of men. Simple. This guy then started taking shots at The Orville and the original series of Star Trek, saying that they are both super woke and that they are both preachy morality stories. These weren't just comments. These were shots that were fired across the bow, okay? Now, we all know that tone is the first thing that is misunderstood and altogether lost in a text message. But his last comment made it sound like being morality-based is a bad thing. And that's the thing that, like, really I couldn't agree with. Like, you can have your opinion on you want to like She-Hulk? That's fine. We all know that I hated it. And I will make an argument as to why I think it's a terrible show. But if you like it, you like it, and there's nothing wrong with you liking it. I'm not going to say that you're stupid for liking something. But, I mean, something like that last comment really did rub me the wrong way. Now, I don't know why he went after Star Trek, the original series, since that hadn't even been brought up in the text thread. But the ensuing text exchange inspired and pretty much wrote the script for this video. And so with that as the backdrop, let's talk about, is Star Trek the original series woke? Quite simply, no. No. You might be thinking, but no, you're wrong. You're just wrong. I'll explain. Let's kind of break this down and let's kind of get into it. So who are the people that are saying that Star Trek the original series is woke? Well, obviously it's the Hollywood leftists with their agenda. That's who. Now you might ask, why are they doing it? Well, that's very simple. See, they're twisting facts to fit their agenda.
You know, the very powerful and the very stupid have one thing in common. They don't alter their views to fit the facts. They alter the facts to fit the views. Which can be uncomfortable if you happen to be one of the facts that needs altering.
So let's think about the word woke for a second. It's only within the last 4 or 5 years that the connotation has been added on that it's somebody who is super aware of social injustice, specifically and primarily towards racism. That is the primary definition as it is of woke in the context that it's used today. And the Hollywood leftists are trying to say that the original series of Star Trek is woke, and this is their attempt at twisting the facts to fit their agenda. I mean, when you're taking something from 50 years ago and you're shoving it into this new definition, that's twisting. You're twisting the facts to fit your agenda. What exactly is Hollywood doing in this respect? Like, why would they do this? Well, it comes back to the fact that Hollywood has forever been vainly trying to cash in on whatever's popular in pop culture. They do this without actually taking the time to learn anything about the respective IPs. And I'm not just talking about Star Trek in this case. I'm talking about literally everything and anything you could think of. For decades, they've been doing this. And so they've been pushing out these painfully generic and in some cases legendarily horrible movies made by people who don't know a damn thing about the source material, but instead they fast track something that, other than one or two details, doesn't even resemble what the title of the movie says it is. That was bad enough back then, primarily in the 80s, 90s, and some part of the early thousands. But now there are fast track movies and TV shows that aren't just bad, but are stuffed to the eyeballs with political and woke messaging. Just like in the past, they take IPs that are beloved in pop culture, and then they create a message, and then they slap the label of Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Marvel, DC, whatever on it, believing that people will flock to it based on name recognition alone. Movies that should have been slam dunks. I mean, like ridiculously, stupidly easy slam dunks. Like slam dunk on a 3-foot rim slam dunk. Instead, they should have just adapted the already existing story in the various games, comics, and TV shows. Pre-existing stories that in many cases were practically gift-wrapped to be adapted for the screen. It would have taken like an hour to adapt things like the Wing Commander script into an actually good movie. Another thing that Hollywood has been doing in the last 10 to 15 years is they're resurrecting shows, movies, and franchises that had basically ridden off into the sunset. IPs that had concluded, that had reached a natural end, or at least kind of like faded away, and everyone was kind of cool with it. Or at the very least, you were satisfied as in terms of like, okay, I can leave it at where it's at. And even some shows that like you maybe didn't have a satisfying ending, but you really couldn't think of anything anywhere else to go with those shows. So it's like, you know what? Up to maybe the last episode, it was good, but bottom line is like shows ended. Shows ended naturally, and that was it. Shows like Star Trek that naturally ended and have had decades of good credit and a legion of fans that have loved the original series TV shows and movies, and in almost all cases liked Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and up to and including Enterprise, but nothing beyond that, because everything beyond that is complete and utter shit. So knowing that there is a built-in fan base for this IP, the people who have no talent in storytelling and definitely no love for the IP created a show with token cast members, identity politics, intersectional feminism, woke messaging, tons of misandry, and enough diversity, representation, and inclusion to drown a freaking whale. They slap the Star Trek name on it, and then they get mad when the fans that loved the old show doesn't love this horseshit that they've packaged as Star Trek when it is most definitely not Star Trek. Let me give you a food analogy. See, I love food analogies because everyone on Earth has to eat. So everyone on Earth understands what food is. So just like what Hollywood has done to Star Trek, let's say you take a turd and then you put it in a quarter pounder with cheese box, and then you put the quarter pounder with cheese box in a bag that says McDonald's on it. Then you hand me the paper bag and you say, here's your order. That doesn't change the inescapable fact that it's still a piece of shit. See where I'm going with this? And that's what this show is. See, just like with the analogy, you have to get past the fancy packaging or the opening credits, if you will. And once you get an episode or two into it, you realize that they fucked up your order and that not only is it not what you ordered, but it's crap. That being said, Hollywood would have you believe that this huge dung pile is the exact same show that you watched so many times so many years ago. By writing articles like this, they are crafty bastards that are trying to shoehorn and twist Gene Roddenberry's original vision to fit into their agenda. See, this articles, others like it, and the people in Hollywood are trying to draw like an equal sign between the original series and their super woke abomination of Discovery, Picard, and whatever else the hell is coming down the pipe after this. And I am so disgusted with myself that I'm about to use the O word, but this actually offends me what they are attempting to do to this show that I love and that so many other people have loved for decades. I've talked about how they're wrong. Let me now show you how wrong they are about Star Trek, the original series, and how it's not woke. Let's look at Star Trek, the original series. So the woke leftists have tried to make the argument that the original Star Trek series was woke because it had a very diverse cast. They're just twisting Gene Roddenberry's vision to suit their agenda. That's it. The point for such diversity was Gene Roddenberry had a vision, and he was showing that in the future, all of our stupid, petty differences, you know, the things that we all point at each other and say, you're wrong or you're stupid or, you know, that's not right or that's not natural, all of that ultimately means nothing. See, that's not woke. That's progressive. You might say that that's semantics, that I'm splitting hairs. So I'll dumb it down and explain what Gene Roddenberry was going for back in the late 1960s. And the time frame, 1960s, it's important. It's relevant. So let's think about that time frame when the show came out, okay? At that point in time in our history, we were slightly removed from the end of World War II. We were in the middle of a civil rights movement and in the middle of the Cold War. So it might have been kind of surprising to see a Japanese man, a black woman, and a Russian bridge officer on the bridge of this ship in command crew positions. And then, of course, there was Spock, the first officer, the second in command of the ship. And he was an alien, dare I say, an immigrant from another land who had his own language, who had his own customs, who had his own identity different from the people of Earth. And yet he was able to assimilate into the culture, you know, without actually losing all of his identity and all of his heritage. Yeah, crazy, right? So, why did Gene Roddenberry do that? Because it was all part of his optimistic view of the future that showed that as a society, we actually made it. Roddenberry used the time stone and showed us the 1 in 14 million chance where we came together and made it as a society and one family, not as Americans, but as a planet, as a species. We did it. We didn't blow each other up. We got past all of our petty crap. We actually matured as a species. We grew up. We got past all the petty childish behaviors. And we came together and created something amazing. Not quite a utopia, but like a brilliant vision of the future where things like disease and famine and energy problems and overpopulation, all these things, all these problems, we solved them. We came together as a people, shared our technologies and our knowledge and our wisdom with each other. We got past fighting wars. And now it's just a mission of exploration and trying to better ourselves and broaden our horizons and deepen our knowledge and wisdom of the world and universe around us to become better. Like, is that such a horrible thing? And in the context of this show, he also attacked current day issues in our society. You know, in the episode, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, in the original series, they tackled racism. But the way they did it was brilliant. Because today, shows and movies that are made today, see, the way that they deal with racism on TV shows and in movies today is that they get a non-white character in the movie to point to all the white men and say, all of you are evil all the time and racist, and that you should feel white guilt because you're white and you should all probably die. Tell me I'm wrong. See, instead of doing it that way, Roddenberry presented the problem as two seemingly identical aliens except for one minor difference.
It is obvious to the most simple-minded that Loci is of an inferior breed.
The obvious visual evidence, Commissioner, is that he is of the same breed as yourself.
Are you blind, Commander Spock? Look at me.
You're black on one side and white on the other.
I am black on the right side.
I fail to see the significant difference.
Loci is white on the right side. All of his people are white on the right side.
Why did he do it this way? Because he wanted to make an allegory. Why? Because he wanted to show that not one race is responsible for racism. Yeah, nobody has the market cornered on racism. It's actually something that everyone everywhere is capable of being racist no matter what race you are, and he wanted to point out that doesn't matter who does it, what race you are, that it's a horrible thing in any form that it takes. So he doesn't point at the white people or the black people or Asians or Latinos or Native American. He doesn't do that. He wraps it up in an allegory so it could represent literally anybody anywhere. He doesn't single anybody out. He doesn't alienate anybody. He's like, but he had a message. He had He had a morality message saying racism is bad. And again, instead of just singling out a single group of people or a single gender or a single sex or a single sexual preference or a single political party, instead of doing any of that, he just said, as a whole, this concept of racism, it's stupid and it's horrible and we should stop this. Because in the end, if we don't, it will most likely lead to our destruction.
No sapient life forms registering at all, Captain.
There is no evidence of natural disaster, yet there are vast numbers of unburied corpses in all cities.
All the people are dead.
All dead, Captain.
Your band of murderers to death! Genocidal maniacs! Stop it! What's the matter with you two? You hear Spock? The planet is dead. There's nobody alive on Charon because of hate.
Their planet's dead. Does it matter now which one's right?
Not to Lokai and Beale. All that matters to them is their hate.
Do you suppose that's all they ever had, sir?
No. But that's all they have left.
In that regard, I loved the original series because of that. Like the way he would tell his stories and how he would wrap if there was a message in the story, because most stories were just stories. But there were plenty of stories that had an overarching morality message to it. And he would wrap it up in the story where it was one of those things that you wouldn't realize till after the fact. Like, oh, I see what he did there. But it didn't pull you out of the story while watching it. It was something that after the story was ended and you can see the entire episode laid out from beginning to end in your mind, you can be like, I see what he did there. I see what he was going for. As opposed to now where it's just so blatant and they smack you over the face with it. You know, based on what I just said, you might still be saying that this show is still woke because, like I said, they had a very diverse cast. Well, let me tell you, every single member of that command crew deserved to be on that bridge based on their merits. See, Uhura, Sulu, Chekhov, Kirk, Spock, everybody. None of them were there because they were just a token box to be checked. Like, how can that be? You had a black person and an Asian person. How is that not checking a box? Well, see, all of those characters were highly trained and proficient at their jobs. They strictly followed the rules and regulations and adhered to the chain of command. No one ever acted superior, condescending, or belittling another character just to make another character seem smarter or more capable. No individual was ever better than anyone else on the Enterprise. There was no morons on the crew just to make someone else shine brighter. Everyone treated each other with common courtesy and mutual respect. My God. This is so different from shows like Discovery that has introduced things like flippantly cursing in a professional ranked environment because it's more edgy, and cursing in front of a superior officer while you're at your duty station would totally fly.
This is so fucking cool.
It is fucking cool.
You want to tell us what kind of shitstorm we're flying into?
Now you get off my ass so we can get back to work?
The shit would hit the fan.
I'm going. Get off my ass. Sir, get off my ass, sir.
Or the blatant belittling and denigrating of crew members, making them look incompetent at their jobs just to make another character seem more intelligent.
I got it. I think it's broken. It's broken. Oh. Yeah. Thank you for fixing it. It was broken.
He was an idiot.
Bayonet joint on his oxygen sensors wide open. Are you trying to kill her?
Shit, get off the assembly. I got it.
Sorry, Commander.
You know, in a scenario where you are on a ship in deep space, every single person has to be highly trained and proficient at their jobs. Why? Because if they're not, you will die. If you have somebody there who's a moron, who, if you gave them a cup of applesauce and a spoon, might accidentally drown themselves, and you have this guy running the warp core, or running the weapons array, or is the assistant to the doctor, no. Like, that's things would start falling apart. Everything would be a disaster. People would be dying left and right if you have incompetent idiots running your ship. So, no. making others look incompetent at their job just to make other characters seem more intelligent because they are because the character is played by an actress, and it usually is an actress, who is a specific, gender or a specific race, just because you have an agenda? No. See, let me bring some real world logic into this, okay? Let's pretend that you don't have a message, but you still have these idiot crew members here. These crew members wouldn't have been assigned to that ship if they weren't good at their jobs. See, a crew member, before they're a crew member, they're a Starfleet cadet. They go to Starfleet Academy, and they study for like 6 years before they're assigned to a ship, a space station, or a planetary base. And depending on their grades, and depending what they get for their grades, depends on where they get posted. So, do you really think the moron that only passed with all D's in every subject is being posted on an exploratory vessel that goes on deep space exploration, constantly in danger of meeting and potentially being attacked by an unknown species? You don't think that they're not just going to drop his ass off at the old Starfleet base on Pluto that's only there as a relay station for communications, where he just uses a plasma scrubber to clean out the EPS conduits and replace power couplings day in and day out? Like, seriously? Really? Unlike the original series, where everyone on the crew of the Enterprise is highly trained and treats each other with mutual respect. You don't have the chief engineer going to the sickbay and telling the doctor that he's not nearly as smart because the doctor can't realign the dilithium matrix. And inversely, you don't have the doctor telling the engineer to suck a D because he can't do open brain surgery. No, there was none of that shit. None of that on any of the Star Trek series between TOS and Enterprise. Not only did they not belittle each other, but they oftentimes had an appropriate amount of awe at how skilled the other person was in their area of expertise. I mentioned how one person in the thread mentioned the Orville, which right now is actually the thing on TV that's more Star Trek than Star Trek. Just like TOS, the Orville has taken the allegorical route in addressing current day issues, like child gender reassignment and cancel culture. And yeah, like my buddy said, they're coming at it from a morality standpoint. And is it a bit preachy? Maybe it is. But saying that these old shows are and not acknowledge that the current shows on TV are leaps and bounds way more preachy is just the pot calling the kettle black. As for messaging in entertainment in general, that's something that's been going on since movies became a thing. See, the mark of a good filmmaker is being able to put a message in without the audience immediately realizing. For example, did you know that in 1933, RKO released King Kong? And King Kong, yes, that King Kong, the one that's like 90 years old, that King Kong, had a bunch of allegories in it. Hell, Kong himself was an allegory. Kong was a representation of nature. Nature kind of as a whole, but also as a force of nature. Nature is a thing that we as humans can explore. We can tame it and even destroy it with our various machines if we so desired. But at the same time, if you go up against a force of nature cocky and ill-prepared, it can very easily overwhelm and kill you. That's actually something that the original filmmaker put in there. Another allegory is that of beauty, and that the blind pursuit of it can lead to your downfall. The character of Anne is portrayed as a stunning beauty that the men on the boat, the native village, and even Kong himself become obsessed with and only want to possess. But ultimately, this leads to the loss of life of many of the men on the expedition, the annihilation of many natives and their village, as well as the death of Kong himself.
Well, Denham, the airplane's got him. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.
In later movies, Kong was anthropomorphized, made more intelligent and sympathetic, but in 1933, he was a savage beast, again, to illustrate the unbridled power of a force of nature. So yeah, all that stuff, all that messaging, they've been doing this kind of thing in movies for a century now. So if somebody's trying to make the argument that messaging is something that just came up like 50 years ago or is just now becoming a thing, you don't know shit, if that's what you think. But going back again to how it's written, see, it's the way that it's written into the story that makes it good, as opposed to the visual equivalent of someone taking their dick out and smacking you in the face with it, which is what they do today. And on that, let me just give you my final thoughts on TOS. And that is that Is it really that bad to want to watch a show where the characters have a mutual respect for one another, that they meet every mission head on with optimism, or at least not anger, grumbling, or disdain? You know, crew members that work with each other, not against one another. They try to help each other where they can, not tear each other down just to look more competent and superior. You know, a place where there is an order to things, where at the end of the day, in addition to getting the job done, maybe we've learned a small lesson that ultimately makes us wiser and more rounded and better equipped to meet the challenges of our everyday lives going forward. Is that really such a bad thing? And people have asked me, you know, why do I watch so many older shows? And that's why. It's because as opposed to now, where so many shows have the messaging of just like, life is terrible everywhere, and there's so much injection of not just all the agenda stuff that I mentioned, but also just like present day just crap. You know, I watch these shows as an escape from that crap. So I don't want to turn on Netflix or something and then get and then get like repummeled by what I just left. You know, is it so wrong to want a good entertaining show that isn't just trying to force you to think the way that they want you to and just have a good message? Is that so bad? Anyway, let me know your thoughts on that. And let's see. I guess my next video is going to be probably, well, I can't say for certain, but I can definitely say that next week I'll be doing Rings of Power, as well as the 3rd episode of She-Hulk. Anyway, that's all I got. Talk to you later. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please hit like and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you didn't like what you saw, well, I appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and I hope you come back because maybe I'll have a video in the future that you do like. Other than that, if anyone out there has anything that they wish that I would review, please let me know and I'll try and get to it. Other than that, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.